Sifter for the ear.
News, interviews, reviews, cinema, TV, streaming. Action!
Hi, y'all. This is Jerry Williams, a.k.a. TV Jerry. As the Bird Theater approaches its centennial celebration in 2028, they're looking for bird stories, your memories and tales of experiences at the theater. I'll include an email link on the webpage for this show at TV Jerry.
You don't know his name. You don't know where he lives. Well, you can see he lives here, lost in an unforgiving world, where one day is the same as the next. A day of bad food and unhealthy water.
That was today's guest, Alan Sater, who's best known for his 23 years as the spokesperson for Christian Children's Fund, later renamed Child Fund. Alan has had an extensive career on stage and screen, including working with Barbra Streisand on Prince of Tides and almost getting cut by Andy Griffith. We'll talk about his past adventures and his plans for a future series of readings called A Few More for the Road, Alan Sater's Bucket List.
Sifter Review of the Week.
A Family Affair on Netflix. Just last month, Anne Hathaway played a woman falling for a younger man in The Idea of You. In less than 30 days, Nicole Kidman takes on the role of a beautiful older woman who falls for her daughter's action star boss, Zac Efron. The expected complications occur as the daughter, Joey King, struggles with the age difference and the awkwardness of the relationship. There's nothing new in the plot, while the uninventive situations and limp dialogue drag down any possibility of charm. Kidman is antiseptic and lovely, while Efron looks like an artificial leading man. His face just doesn't look natural anymore. Their chemistry is nothing special, and neither has the opportunity to be funny. King is the only one with any real comedy potential, but she isn't given anything to work with. Despite the star power, there's absolutely nothing about this film that makes it worth watching. Even the title is bland and unoriginal. I gave A Family Affair 1 out of 5 stars. So, Alan Sater, I have known you for many years and actually interviewed your daughter Mary in 2022 about her work as a set designer in the biz. Now it's your turn.
Okay, well, I'm ready.
Obviously, this podcast is about film and TV and streaming, and you started in theater. What made you decide, hey, I'm going to be an actor?
I've always found myself in a play. Well, I was pre-med at Duke. And 3 semesters later, it occurred to me that, no, I'm not going to be a doctor.
Well, now, where did you grow up? You said you grew up doing theater. Was that in Virginia?
I grew up doing theater in Western North Carolina, where I lived, where I was a kid. I was born in Durham and then grew up in Brevard, North Carolina, just south of Asheville, like 30 miles.
Well, so now, how did you end up in Tidewater running and owning a dinner theater?
While I was at school, the producer-director of the State Theater of North Carolina, which is Flat Rock Playhouse.
Right.
He came up to me and he said, I'd like to offer you a job at my theater in Summer Stock.
Wow.
And that was it. This was when dinner theaters were kind of young and new. There were 2 dinner theaters. One of them was new, called the Showboat Dinner Theater. And I knocked on their door and said, I'm an actor and I would like to work in this dinner theater. And I got about the lowest paying job tacking posters on telephone poles, but they opened another one and I went there down to Florida. And over a course of a couple of years, a guy called me and said, I want you to manage my dinner theater in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. I ended up, after a few years, owning half of this dinner theater. Then there was a dinner theater that had just gone out of business in Norfolk, Virginia, and that had been the Lake Wright Dinner Theater. It only lasted a year. It was mismanaged. But I went to the owners and I'd like to rent this facility from you and make a success of it. Well, that's what happened. But that theater ran for over 20 years.
Wow.
And I was part of it for a little over 10.
So how did you segue into camera work?
Another friend had said, you got a great voice. You ought to do radio. And then somebody took me down to the Studio Center, which was a commercial producing facility in Norfolk. And I ended up doing a lot for them. Somebody else said, well, maybe you need to come to Richmond because there's more work being done in Richmond. And so I did that. And that really was what the change was.
So I know one of your early big gigs was a soap opera. Tell us about that.
This was a soap opera that was being produced by Christian Broadcasting Network, which was in Virginia Beach.
Right.
CBN, and I played a bad guy. I played a lawyer. I played a
Of
lawyer
course
who
you're a
worked.
bad guy. You're a lawyer. Of course you're bad.
Yeah, and that ran for 3+ years, and I ended up a regular on the series.
Let's move to some of your movies because I know you were in Lincoln, Evan Almighty, non-movies, Dawson's Creek, Legacy, Matlock. What about working with Andy Griffith on his popular long-running Matlock?
They had a little meeting. We were about to shoot this scene. We may have shot it. And then Andy, he was talking to his director, and he said, I don't think we need the scene. That got my attention. I said, and I didn't say anything. I didn't contribute anything, but I thought, if they don't have this scene, then I go home. I get paid for the day, but I don't get residuals. Well, anyway, the director said, "No, I think we really do need it because of this and that." So I was able to stay in that scene, and I've been getting residuals every year since it may have been '93, but the royalties have been very good. He's very popular all over the world, and I think they dub in different languages.
I wonder if they can do a Southern accent in Chinese or French.
Yeah.
He's got to have the Southern accent, That's old
Well,
Matlock.
sure. Yeah, that's right. He's not Andy if he doesn't have a Southern accent.
Exactly. Let's talk a little bit about the gig that most people know you from, Christian Children's Fund, which became Child Fund. How did you first get cast in that role?
That was because I had been working with Doug Burford for a couple of years on any of a variety of things.
Footnote.
Doug Burford runs a prominent local agency and is known for his quirky advertising.
We dummied up a spot to submit to Christian Children's Fund at the time. And we did it on Churchill. We found a garage and we got some tropical plants and put them around it as though it were Central or South America. The person who was going to make the decision, he said, "Yeah, but can he walk and talk at the same time?" So we made the spot where I walked and talked. And he said, "Okay." So that's the long and short of it.
Surprise guest drop in.
Hold on a second. Let's see who this is.
All right. Who is it?
Alan, can we try that one more time? First position, everyone.
Back to one. Voice ring a bell now, Alan?
I recognize the voice as a friendly voice. I don't have a name to it yet.
Well, I don't think we have to jump a plane to Brazil or Africa anymore.
Is this a director whom I've traveled with all over the world?
Sometimes, yes. This is Wayne Westbrook, of course.
I know it's Wayne Westbrook.
Yeah,
now.
I know, but I don't know who's.
I was thinking of actors and things.
Footnote.
Wayne Westbrook was a longtime commercial director in Richmond, primarily with a company called Main Street Productions.
Wayne, I know you're living on the coast of Florida, retired in a beautiful part of Florida.
Yeah, living on a small island just off the Gulf Coast of Florida. Anyway, it's so good to hear your voice. My goodness, it is. I work with people all over the country and all over the world.
Yeah.
And I'd have to say to you, Alan, I don't think I work with anyone who was ever more prepared or more professional than you. Or you showed up and you just knew your stuff. You owned it.
That's terrific. It was so great working with you for over the years.
For Christian Children's Fund, that was the account we had. And we did it for, I guess, 10, 15 years. And then Alan carried the torch for another 5 years or so.
23 altogether.
There you go. You have to imagine being in a third world country and being in places where the State Department says, don't go to these places.
Yeah,
it's dangerous. Right. And if you go to these places, stay away from the kids, because there were rumors that the Americans were coming in to kidnap the kids for their organs.
Wow.
So we would be in there and all that. You got to imagine, I guess the kids were 4 years old, 5 years old, you see on there. They were not bilingual. And so they had this big guy who was saying things in English that they didn't understand. And you got to realize this is probably around the time the kids were ready for naps. You get the perfect take, and there'd be a kid in Alan's lap that was asleep. So we worked with a wonderful man, Tony Martin.
Yeah.
I forget where it was, but we were one of the places, and the kids were they lost the focus and everything. So Tony would go around and clap his hands and get the kids excited. And he'd point to Alan and say, "Papa Noel, Papa Noel, which is Santa Claus.
Of
And
course,
the kids
yeah,
would
yeah.
see it and they'd see Santa Claus there. It was great and all of that stuff there. I've got one really funny story.
Oh, let's hear it.
Was it Farm Fresh, Alan? You were
Yes.
doing work at Farm Fresh.
Yeah.
We were at, I forget the name of the mall. It's not there anymore. It was in North Side off Brook Road.
Azalea Mall.
It's not there anymore, but yeah.
It's not there. And so Doug had an idea. His idea was Alan's going to be a stagecoach driver. So you pull up, you stop, you deliver your lines, and then you say, "Yeah." You get, and you mind you, there was it 4 or 6 horses attached to this stagecoach.
Mm-hmm.
And so to see the playback and all, you've got to have a television monitor and all that. So I asked the guys to rig up all of that inside the stagecoach. Now Doug is inside watching the shots and all inside the stagecoach. So I get inside there, and now we're playing it back, and I got the volume up on the little television set that we were watching it there. And you see Alan do his lines perfectly, and then you hear, "Yeah." And when we did, the horses take off. Nobody was on the stagecoach. That's the problem. Nobody was driving the stagecoach. And it takes off, and fortunately, one of the handlers for the horses sort of saw what was going on, ran over and caught the horses after they ran about 30 feet.
Wow.
There was nobody steering these horses. I mean, it could have been a total catastrophe. But it's a great story.
Yeah, it is.
But Doug was so creative that at the last minute, he would say, "Oh, let's change the copy."
Right.
Well, I've got to save the copy, and I have what's called an ear prompter. So I simply, if when he writes a new spot, I record it, and then I play it back in my ear prompter, and I parrot myself.
Right.
And that's how an ear prompter works. There's a learning curve to the ear prompter, as you know, Jerry, because you've shot people who are using an ear prompter. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool if especially if you're working with somebody like Doug, who will create a spot at the last minute. In any case, that's how we were able to do the amount of work that we did accomplish in very difficult conditions. We did have guards with us. We had folks who were policemen or military people who stood around with us. They had guns and they were there to protect us, but they only worked from 9 to 5, and boom, not 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock comes, they're gone. We're looking around for them and they're gone. Nothing bad ever happened.
That's fortunate.
There was one place that we went that just the week before, a CNN crew, the bad guys had come to the CNN crew, and they held them at gunpoint and they stole their equipment. And we were told about that. And then while we were shooting, it might have been Tony, it was somebody, came up to us and said, "Look, we've just heard the bad guys, the outlaws, they're coming here." Doug said, "Okay, well, we'll just finish this spot. It won't take a few minutes." And the guy said, "No, you don't understand.
Yeah,
we
you
have
don't
to
understand.
leave now." Well, just one more take Doug wanted.
I know.
And we did get out of there.
It was always a little harrowing, it was. But
It
boy,
was. And we also had a lot of fun. Let's not say that we didn't, because we did have fun. And we worked really hard, and we did some really fine work. And I am very proud of the work that I did for 23 years with what became Child Fund. Everybody wants to make a difference. And this was our opportunity to make a difference. Wasn't it, Wayne? And we did.
You just had that magic thing, that it was passion.
It was such a pleasure and an honor to be part of that. And it's part of my life, part of my professional life and work life that was very rewarding. I sponsored a boy, Arnold Kanja, who I sponsored for years. And because of my family's sponsorship of him, he got to go to school. He got a great education. He's now a professional photographer.
That's right. Yeah.
And he has his ups and downs and hard times. But I've stayed in touch with him. I don't think that Child Fund encourages people to stay in touch, but they don't make it easy either. But I found a way to get in touch with him. And so I've been in touch with him. He's got a family now. Another place where I know I made a difference. And as I said, we all want to make a difference. And it's extremely rewarding when you can look at something and say, yes, that was one of those things where I actually helped some kids and probably saved their lives. It's a drop in the bucket, but it means something. I'm so glad that the drop-in guest was you. I was thinking it surely had to be an actor or somebody in theater, and so that's how you got me on The Voice. I said I know The Voice, but I don't know which actor it belongs to.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, Wayne, enjoy life in Florida, and maybe we'll see you back in Richmond one day soon.
Well, I certainly hope so, Jerry. It was great seeing you and here listening to my old friend, dear friend, Alan. Love you, man. Be good.
Bye-bye, Wayne.
So I have to ask you, because I'm sure you saw it, what kind of feedback or blowback did you get from that Saturday Night Live sketch?
Dial the number and send over 39 cents. That's all we need.
Start higher. I know, right?
39 cents may not sound like a lot, but it can mean so much to these families.
It's not even a round number. Like, if he said $1, I could see how he got there.
Yeah, but you know they always trying to take away a penny to make it sound like less.
I get that. I'm just saying, why not start at 99 cents?
39 cents. That's all these people need to survive.
Well, there was plenty of it. Some people were amazed and they said, wow, you were on Saturday Night Live. But just the fact that they had done a send-up, because I was on television an awful lot.
And I guess Saturday Night Live never contacted you to get approval or permission. They just did it, and then you found out after.
That's right. I found out afterwards, and I contacted my union, and they never did anything about it. Key and Peele also did that. They did a send-up of me, as well as there's another comic whose name I don't remember.
Okay, now let's pivot to Prince of Tides, which Barbra Streisand wrote, produced, and starred in, and you had a part in that. What was that like?
It was shot in Beaufort.
Is that North Carolina?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And what was your experience like on that?
The role I had was very small, but I worked on the thing 2 weeks or more. I had to audition for Barbra Streisand and be interviewed by her for this role of a critic. And it was based on a famous critic for the New York Times, an art critic who could be very snarky. Well, I mean, that's what critics do best, isn't it?
Present company excluded, of course.
Oh, well, of course. But it's easier to be clever and negative than it is to be clever and positive.
Right, right.
In any case, she had rented a house. There was nobody else there. It was a private audition. At the time she asked me to read something, I looked to my right, and 15 feet away in the foyer was her pet dog. And the dog at that particular moment just happened to be scooting, which means wiping his behind on what looked like an expensive carpet.
Right.
She couldn't see it, but I could see it. And that's the last thing I saw before I did my audition.
But you got the part, so that's the good news.
Yes, I got the role and it was fun. But my one line, by the way, remember, I'm an art critic. Somebody said to me, how can you say that about his work? It's hanging in the Metropolitan Museum. And my line was, so is toilet paper.
Oh,
which was
great.
a funny line.
Yeah.
First time it was shot, I said it. And then Barbara said, is that the right reading? She was trying to figure out if there was a funnier way to read it.
Yeah.
Than I did. And apparently there wasn't a funnier way because they took my reading.
Anything good on Dawson's Creek?
Footnote.
Dawson's Creek was a popular teen drama that ran from 1998 to 2003.
Michelle Williams, who was the star of that show,
Right.
and an older woman, I asked her at the lunch break, I said, well, how was that scene? And then she said, well, Michelle didn't really like you.
Oh, nice.
And I was a little stymied by that.
Yeah.
Because there was a chance that if this character worked out, that I could have been in more episodes. Unfortunately, it didn't work out because Michelle Williams didn't like me. And this woman, who I've called a friend, said, well, Michelle doesn't like a lot of things. So that made me feel a little better. But
So you were at least in one of the episodes or none of them?
oh, yeah. Yeah, I was in one episode, and it was good.
Surprise guest drop in.
Guess what? There's another guest.
No.
Hello.
Oh, I can't tell you how happy I am to see you.
So am I. It's been too long. I have to say, when did we do this? Like 2022 when you were in The First Lady? Was that? Yeah, that was April of 2022. So, what's your involvement with Mr. Sater?
I don't think I've heard her name yet, and I'm going to say it's Irene Ziegler.
There you go.
Footnote.
Irene Ziegler is a local actor, and I'll include a link to her podcast about being in The First Lady on the webpage for the show at TV Jerry.
We've been working closely together on Alan's latest project called A Few More for the Road, Alan Sater's Bucket List, which he approached me to help him produce it. And Alan, why don't you tell folks what that's all about?
Okay. Well, I got a cancer diagnosis back in the first. It started in March of last year, bladder cancer, and they said it's we can take care of it as long as it doesn't get out of your bladder. Well, it did, so that changed the plan. And the day a scan revealed that the cancer had moved out of the bladder, a doctor, he says, well, this cancer is incurable. And I said, well, what does that mean for my longevity? And he said, oh, days, weeks, months. And then he also said, a year and a half. All I heard was days, weeks, months. That's all I heard was days, weeks, months. I thought, I am going to die before Christmas. And so I kind of did. I lost interest in everything. And for several months, I was that way. And what makes this even worse was that my wife, the wonderful artist Anne Chenoweth, died in July. We're coming up on the year anniversary of her passing. That combined with the cancer of incurable cancer diagnosis, that's pretty heavy news
Right.
to absorb, and I didn't absorb it well. But Daniel Moore wrote its 2-character play about 2 old brothers, and he brought in an actor who was absolutely wonderful, whom I had admired for years and had always thought what a kick it would be to work with him.
It was Joe Pabst, and I was there for that reading. And at the end of it, Alan was so delighted to have shared a stage with Joe Pabst, this person that he had long admired. And it was so obvious that, he was just in his element and probably as happy as he'd been in a few months, certainly since he got the diagnosis.
Yeah.
So when he called me and said, hey, I want to do more of this, I want to work with some more actors whom I've admired, but have never had an opportunity to work with. And would you help me put that together?
So, Irene, you're producing this thing. So what's going to happen exactly?
For 2 afternoons, Saturday and Sunday, July 20 and 21st at 2:00, with the help of Richmond Triangle players who were graciously allowed to do this in their space, we're going to present 6 short plays and scenes from longer plays that feature Alan and one other actor. The first one will be I'm Herbert by Robert Anderson with Jan Powell and Alan. The second one is The Father with Alan and myself. The third one is a 10-minute play called The Unforgivable Sin of Forgiveness with Alan and Eva DeVirgilis. Then an intermission. And then the next one will be Alan doing a monologue, Falstaff's monologue from Henry I, Part 1, followed by Mass Appeal with Eric Appleby, and then bringing up the rear, as it were, Alan and Joe doing 2 Pints by Roddy Doyle.
I have just mentioned, because you both talked about Joe Pabst and what a great guy. Not only have I directed him on camera, but I've also directed him in theater at Triangle in 2013. He was the lead in Regrets Only. So he is a talented guy, and that's great that he's going to be in. And actually, everybody you mentioned, they're all talented. So it should be a wonderful event.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. And it's free. We're asking for people to donate to one of 3 nonprofits.
None of the people working on it, none of the actors, everyone is volunteering, but we really want folks to donate either to the theater that we're in or to the American Cancer Society or to our local Actors Fund, which is a fund that helps actors who may be a little down and out, who don't have enough money for their medical bills. I'm really pumped about not only working with these people whom I've not worked with before. And Eric Appleby is an exception. He's not a person whose work I knew before. but I saw him in a production called Passover at the Little Gym Theater, and he's a wonderful actor. So I'm so pleased that he will be one of those, that he really will be one of those actors who years from now, everybody will know his name.
Well, Irene, I want to thank you for taking on this project in your retirement. And thanks for dropping in today.
Take care,
Love you,
Alan.
Irene. We'll talk.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, the one question I always ask everybody at the end, as I'm sure you know, is when you got some time when you're not rehearsing, what are you watching?
I like to watch a series like reading a book. I like to start the book and read the whole book. So I have watched Suits. And I won't say I binge Suits, because binging, I think, means watching 12 episodes a day or something. I would watch 1 or 2 episodes a day, like reading a book. I'd read a chapter of the book, put it down. Tomorrow night, I read it again. That's what I do with a TV series. I like Suits, or like White Collar, or like the one I'm watching now, and it's got a whole lot of episodes. So I'll be watching this for weeks and weeks and weeks. Bones.
Oh, okay.
We've got, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of Bones, and they got like 17, 18 episodes a year. So there's a couple of hundred episodes of this. And I like it because of the relationship of the stars of the show. They work for me in this case. So what I watch is usually somewhere in a long novel that I've been reading for a while, whatever it is.
Right. Well, Alan, this has been very entertaining and informative and a lot of fun. And congratulations on all your work, and good luck with this show that's coming up in just a couple of weeks. Hope you break a leg.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jerry. It saved my life. I mean, I could have been turned into a drunk. You know, theater was my life, and it's really interesting how it saved my life. I do like to reflect on that, and it makes me feel good.
Well, I'm glad we could talk about it. I'm glad we can encourage people to see it and break a leg again.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you so much.
That was today's guest, Alan Sater, who's best known for his 23 years as spokesperson for the Christian Children's Fund, later renamed Child Fund. His series of readings, A Few More for the Road, Alan Sater's Bucket List, will be presented Saturday and Sunday, July 20th and 21st at Richmond Triangle Players. I'll include a link to the show on the webpage for this show at tvjerry.com.
Coming soon. In theaters.
Despicable Me 4. In this sequel, there's a new family member, Gru Jr. Maxine. In a follow-up to Mia Goth's last film, X, she plays a porn star who tries to go legit, but there's a killer on the loose. Kill 2. Commandos face an army of invading bandits on a train to New Delhi. Think Bullet Train from India. Sound of Hope, the story of Possum Trot, is based on the true story of a couple in their church in East Texas where 22 families have adopted 77 foster kids.
TV and streaming.
Beverly Hills Cop Alex F. on Netflix. Eddie Murphy returns to one of his most popular roles. Sasha Reed and the Midnight Order on Hulu. This real crime series stars Reed and her secret society looking for serial killers. The Boyfriend on Netflix. In this reality series, a group of gay men run a coffee truck together for a month while they look for true love. Sunny on Apple. After her son and husband go missing in a mysterious plane crash, Rashida Jones plays the woman who uses the titular robot to help her grieve, and more. Sausage Party Foodtopia on Prime. This sequel to the original animated comedy follows the gang as they try to build their own society, starring Seth Rogen, Kristen Wiig, and Michael Cera. The Responder on BritBox. Martin Freeman stars as a morally compromised first responder dealing with the night shift in Liverpool. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening. See you next week.
For more Sister, including literally thousands of reviews,
visit tvjerry.com.
That's a wrap.